So this is the kind of thing.
And then the next to you.
And so good, you know, this further scripture.
Today you're assigning spots. Today I get the next. My goodness, yes, I just finished my half hour. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't think I have that. Let's see, let's see.
No, we have the wrap up.
Yeah, I was. I can see you save yours and you take it home.
It's all right, I'm gonna put everything up.
If I did, I know exactly the pile here. It's only
Is
gonna
it?
be one portion of this.
Okay.
That's the worst thing that happened to you today.
Get lucky this
You're
year.
ready, Amy.
No, they're dry.
Find yourself blessed.
Hello. Doing. They're not like the wizard of the grass. Melting.
Hi there.
I'm sitting around and getting ready for something here to me. So again, and trying to see. But that's. I just did. Yeah, but then, we don't get there. Recently, well, there was a day starting that home here. Usually, we also. Well, for.
Diddy die, die, da dee die, ay, ay, da dee die, ay, ay, da da dee da da. Diddy die, die, da dee die, ay, ay, da dee die, ay, ay, da da dee da da. Diddy die, die, da dee die, ay, ay, da dee die, ay, ay, da da dee da da. Diddy die, die, da dee die, ay, ay, da dee die, ay, ay, da da dee da da. Diddy die, die, oh, diddy die, die, oh, diddy die, die, oh, diddy die, die, da 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 dee die da. Diddy die, die, oh, diddy die, die, oh, diddy die, die, oh, diddy die, die, da 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 dee die da. Diddy die, die, da dee die, ay, ay, da dee die, ay, ay, da 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 dee da da. Diddy die, die, da dee die, ay, ay, da dee die, ay, ay, da da dee da da. Ay, diddy die, die, da dee die, ay, ay, da dee die, ay, ay, da da dee da da. Diddy die, die, da dee die, ay, ay, da dee die, ay, ay, da 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 da. Diddy die, die, oh, diddy die, die, oh, diddy die, die, oh, diddy die, die, da da dee die da. Oh, diddy die, die, oh, diddy die, die, oh. Diddy die, die, oh, diddy die, die, da da dee die da.
So that nigun, that wordless melody, is known as the Elul nigun. The nigun that is specifically sung during the month of Elul. And so I'm wondering what emotions or feelings were generated for you in hearing that nigun.
I thought it was energetic, wanted to dance.
Yeah, energetic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was like, we better hurry up.
we better
Time
hurry
is
up.
here.
Time is ticking, let's go.
It's here.
It's here, Rosh Hashanah is right around the corner. So you can find that on YouTube, that happened to be by Eitan Katz. But it is a really energetic, gets you moving nigun. And so I want to welcome you all to our final third session of spiritual conditioning, getting ourselves ready for the high holy days. We are going to be exploring some more stories today that relate to Elul. I'm going to give you all the opportunity to talk to your neighbor at some point. And so if you left your papers with me last week, I left them over on the main table. Some of you had your name on them. If you did not leave your papers, I hope you have them. And if you don't have them, I'm going to be sharing them anyway, so you'll be able to see them on the screen. So here is one of my favorite stories, the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement, 1700s. And here is this beautiful story that is told about the Baal Shem Tov. So it's a famous story. As I mentioned, he was the founder of the Hasidim, the Hasidic sect of Judaism. And so while you might think of the Hasidim that you've seen in New York or in the movies as being conservative and rigorous about the old ways, sort of the Amish of the Jewish people, the Baal Shem Tovs in his day, they were quite revolutionary. They turned the European Jewish world upside down because they valued the spiritual dimension of every Jew's life. And if you can tap into that energy of Elul, that sense of dancing and singing, and that really is the essence of what the Hasidic Jewish world one actually added and have gifted the larger Jewish community with, right? It wasn't just the scholars who could study, it was a populist movement. It wasn't just about the powerful or the wealthy. It was a movement that brought those Jews who were illiterate, who were poor, into a worldview where they could walk with God. Their relationship with God was just as important as anybody else's. So it really leveled the playing field. So here's this story. It was about to be Rosh Hashanah. And the Baal Shem Tov was already a very famous Rebbe. He's a teacher and a mystic. And he asked another rabbi, whose name was Zev Kitsis, to be the Baal Tekiah, the one who calls out the shofar blasts. You know, the one who goes, Tekiah, Shivarim. So this was the job that was offered to Zev Kitsis. And blowing the shofar, as you know, is a great responsibility. And so Rav Kitsis took it really seriously. And he studied all of the stories and the lore that was connected to blowing the shofar. And he studied all of the secret meanings that were associated with blowing the shofar. And he studied the mystical kavanot, these intentions, things to meditate on and to lift his mind and his spirits and really elevate himself before he blew the shofar. And he wanted to make sure that he was going to be able to open the gates for his community. And he felt this incredible, immense responsibility. So he made himself a little cheat sheet. Anybody ever make themselves a little cheat sheet? He tucked it in his pocket because there was so much information he couldn't remember it all. Sticks it in his pocket, and the moment approached. Baal Shem Tov calls him up to the bima. Reb Kitzitz, it's time to blow the shofar. Baal Tikiah, come on up, sticks his hand in his pocket. There's nothing there. There's no paper. And in that moment, you can imagine the depth of despair that Rav Kitzitz started expressing. How could I have forgotten all of these secrets? I've spent so much time perfecting them and now it's gone. And so couldn't really step away. He stood there and he blew the shofar with tears streaming down his face, weeping and weeping and weeping. And after the service, the Baal Shem Tov comes over to him. And Rav Kitzitz starts apologizing. I am so sorry. I am so sorry. I failed. I totally failed. The Baal Shem Tov says, no, you didn't fail. You actually succeeded because you blew the shofar from a place of such brokenness and a place of such holiness that you shattered all of the doors in the palace. There's this master palace where God resides, and each door has a key, but there's a master key, and that master key is the brokenheartedness. So it is in those moments when we are so broken and we are crying and wailing and weeping. That, my friends, is the master key that opens all the doors in the palace. So let's sit with that for about 15 seconds. I want to ask you to reflect on the beauty of that story. Oh, I love this line at the bottom. Colleague of mine, Rabbi Erwin Keller, recounted the story and he says, it's a good story about how real we feel when we are brokenhearted. Sometimes the most real we ever feel. And how close to God, how in dialogue we can be in those moments of suffering, in the moments when we groan. Thoughts, reflections, agreements, disagreements. Yeah, Lauren.
I think it also reflects a certain sense of humanity and like humanness and that special human being. It's like everyone else.
Yeah.
Can succeed in a way and model another character traits. That's really important.
Yeah, exactly. Right. He was just like everybody else, right? You think, oh, he's a rabbi, he's up. He forgot too. He made a mistake. He didn't do what he wanted to do. And he's a real person, just like everybody else. Right. And I think it also, well, I'm going to let you talk because I have another thought, but I want to see if it emerges from anybody else. Yes, Marilyn.
I'm thinking in terms of that brokenness means shedding of all the ego attachments and identity, striving and proving. Once all that is gone, what's left of you?
Yeah.
The individual soul.
Exactly. Right. So it's really the shedding of his ego, and he is coming from a place of humility. Right. That's all. He's showing up as his true neshama, as his soul, without the ego, without all of these titles and attachments and, oh, well, I have a PhD in whatever, or I have a degree from this rabbinical seminary and I have a law degree and I have, I birthed 17 children and I'm the best neighbor and I take care of the whole neighborhood, right? All of that is just gone. And what is there is his essence of who he is. Yes. Marcia.
And you become more empathetic with the brokenness, you know, like now it's in humanity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we become, through our brokenness, we are able to relate to people because it's hard being human and everybody has something. And so when we are able to allow ourselves to tap into that brokenness, then we can connect with greater ease and hopefully more compassion and understanding for somebody else who also was broken. What was your name?
I'm Mark Steiner,
Hi, Mark, welcome.
thank you. So it's interesting because it made me think of being in silence and how silence and reflection in yourself has a lot to do with either being comfortable in solitude or being in a feeling of loneliness.
Yeah, very nice, right? So we talked a little bit for these past few weeks that there's part of our spiritual conditioning to just be silent, right? To meditate. And how comfortable are we in that place of silence? Because then, I don't know about your mind, but my mind is very chatty. And so when I go into silence, it's like, oh, you forgot to do this, and oh, you did this, and why did you say that? And oh, again, right? It's like my husband looks at me, he's like, how many thoughts are you having at one time right now? You don't want me to count. But how do we get into a place of silence so that we can actually quiet down? And maybe it's in that quiet where we allow ourselves to break open. Right? For some people, they might need music or noise or some song that can generate emotions. For other people, maybe it's just silence.
Powerful.
Yeah, the power of silence to also break us open. Yeah.
So in the daily prayers, there's a line, Taria Rabbeinu, Vienna,
Yes.
open my heart, prayer, open my heart to serve you in truth,
Yeah.
or circumcise my heart to serve you. Great.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, break open our hearts. We say it every day. The root of taher is also to purify, right? So it's like to purify our hearts. And when we get rid of all that ego stuff, that's when our hearts become pure. That's when we can connect to the true essence of who we are, and we can break our hearts open. Beautiful. Any other final thoughts before we move on to our next tale? Okay, so we are going to move on to something that is called the inner critic. Some of you might have this from last week. It would be on the back of the document from last week, and if you don't have it from last week, I am happy to share it. Okay, so without totally outing yourself, how many of you here have an inner critic? Does anybody not have an inner critic? Maybe that's a better word, a better question. And so I picked this because I feel like it's something we can all relate to. And this also comes from another teaching from the Baal Shem Tov. Anybody want to read this, the inner critic? Sure, Spencer, take it away.
Teaching 3, the inner critic. Don't get carried away with excessive details in everything you do. This is your evil impulse working against you. It intends to agonize you by insisting you haven't fulfilled your obligation, just to make you depressed. Depression is a reprehensible attitude, the greatest obstacle to serving the Creator. Blessed be He. Even if you stumble in sin, don't wallow in misery. That would destroy all that you have accomplished so far, rendering you an easy catch for the evil impulse. Since you feel you are a lost cause anyway, your divine service would fall apart. Just be saddened over sin, ashamed before the Creator, and plead to Him to absolve the bad you've done, and then get back to rejoicing in the Creator. Blessed be He. Since you thoroughly regret what you did and have resolved in your mind never to do foolish things like this again. Even if you know with certainty that you haven't fulfilled your obligation in some area because there were so many obstacles, Don't let that get you down. Consider the Creator plus the BE examines all hearts and innards. He knows you wanted to do things as best as possible, just that you were not able. And then strengthen yourself. Enjoy in the Creator. May He be blessed.
All right, so we're gonna unpack this, and I always like to have a disclaimer. Please consider the time in which this was written. The language might not be what we're used to. It may be too gendered. It might not fit your theology, y'all, all of that. So I want to acknowledge that it might not completely resonate. And I like to think of many of these more ancient texts, not that this is so ancient, we're looking at 1700, so compared to like the Torah and the Talmud, it's modern. But for us in the year that we are in, right, the 21st century, so I like to think of these texts as archaeological finds. Has anyone ever been on an archaeological dig?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so they give you like a huge sifter, and then they pour a pile of sand or dirt on it, and you take the sifter, and it's usually large enough that two people, depending on the size of your archaeological dig site, you stand on the side and you shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it, and all the sand falls through, and then hopefully you find a piece of pottery from Sarah's tent, and then you become the hero of the archaeological dig, but sometimes you just find a rock. But there is sometimes like great treasures to be gleaned. And so I'm gonna ask you to take out your 21st century sifter and let fall down what doesn't resonate for you and see what treasure is left on that mesh wire. So let's go back to the beginning. Don't get carried away with excessive details in everything you do. I'm just gonna let you all pause and sink into that. Was this the right thing? Did I, what am I making for Rosh Hashanah? Am I making enough proteins? Do I have enough vegetables? Did I invite the right people? Am I gonna go to synagogue? What should I wear? Should I wear this? Is it the right shoes? And did I get the tie? Is it gonna match the right? Okay, so whatever it is in your preparation, just a noticing like, do I overthink things? Am I excessive in the details of everything that I do? Okay, again, we're observant. We are not critiquing ourselves. We're just going like, yeah, that's interesting. I do that. And clearly this must have been done for many years before, because we wouldn't have this in the text if it wasn't something that people were doing already. So yes, just a reminder, don't get carried away in the details. So the language that he used, the evil impulse, the Yetzer Hara, we have two impulses, the Yetzer Hara, translated as evil. I don't necessarily love that translation, but I'm gonna put that in my sifter. The evil inclination and the Yetzer Hatov, the good inclination. So my disclaimer for the Yetzer Hara is the Talmud teaches us, if we did not have the Yetzer Hara, cities would not be built and babies would not be born. So the Yetzer Hara is not something bad or evil. It's that more primal instinct in us. So oftentimes Yetzer Hara is translated as Ra, meaning bad or evil. So it's the evil impulse. It's the things that make you do bad. But the rabbis say, whoa. It's not like, you can't lump it into some category, right? Murdering someone is evil, right? But the Yetzer Hara also has people act on their more animalistic instincts. And that is why people make babies. And that is why cities are born, because there's a sense that humans want to build and to conquer, and right. So it's looking at the evil, and I'm putting that in quotes on purpose, the evil inclination. Some of it is bad and evil, and some of it is just what gives us motivation and drive. It's really about the human drive to strive. So, right, if you think about it in this case, our evil impulse, our Yetzer Hara, is what says to us, I want to make sure my project for work is perfect. Because I want to make sure my colleagues are gonna think highly of me. And I wanna make sure that I am gonna keep my job and I'm gonna get this promotion. So I'm going to stay up all night. I'm gonna work on this PowerPoint. I'm not having dinner with my family. I'm not talking to any of my friends. I have such this like strive, this yetzer hara that's really driving me. Could be for like a good cause-ish if you want to keep your job, but so carried away in the details because it's this yetzer hara that is driving you. Is this making sense?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, okay, so,
Thank you for doing that, because I was like, what?
yes, okay, so what it says, it intends to agonize you by insisting you haven't fulfilled your obligation, just to make you feel depressed. Right, so, well, if I don't really complete this to the fullest, to my fullest ability, then you know what, I guess I really didn't do everything I could have done. So if I didn't do everything I could have done, well, I mean, why even bother working so hard anyway? Because clearly I didn't get the job and my colleagues don't really think that I'm the most incredible employee, so forget about it. Next time I'm not gonna strive. You can see how this could lead to a depression, right? If this yetzer hara, it's always causing us to go, 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 go. We don't get what we want, and then we sort of sink back. And he says, no, no, we're not going down that path. We don't want to live in a state of depression because God doesn't want us to be wallowing in sorrow. God doesn't want us to be wallowing in misery. And then that would totally detract from everything you've already accomplished. Okay, so you didn't get the promotion, you're gonna keep your job. Great. So does that mean you're not gonna be happy with your job and you're gonna then become depressed and then not show up to like, can you start to see this like spiraling that he's talking about here? Your divine service would fall apart. Right, so what Daniel quoted this line from the prayer book this morning. Purify, cleanse my heart, break it open so I can be of service to you today. So I can be your servant. So how can we be of service if we are feeling so sad and miserable that we don't want to leave our houses and we don't want to talk to anybody? Now, there are times and places and moments where that is appropriate. You have a tremendous loss. You have a health issue. Like, I don't want to be misunderstood in terms of toxic positivity. That's not what I'm talking about. There are times and places where having a depressed outlook or feeling is normal and healthy and an appropriate response. The Baal Shem Tov doesn't want us to stay there. Have your feeling. And don't stay in that place because then you can't go out and do good in the world. Then you can't go out and serve God. First paragraph clear. Yes, okay. So what he says is just be sad that you missed the mark. I'm really sorry. It didn't work out the way that I had anticipated. And to feel ashamed. You know, please forgive me. God, please forgive me for what I did. And then we're going to let it go. Right? See Mel Robbins, you know, her new book, Let Them. She didn't realize the Baal Shem Tov was talking about this in the 1700s. Right? And then get back to rejoicing to the Creator. Since you thoroughly regret what you did, and you've resolved in your mind not to do it again. Yes, we may make a mistake again because we're human, but okay. I totally messed this up. I'm really sorry. I'm going to do my best to do better next time. And then let's get on with it. Right? Let's apologize and move on, right? Even if you know with certainty you haven't fulfilled your obligation in so many areas because there were so many obstacles. Okay, don't let that get you down either. Yeah, there were a lot of challenges. I was not able to succeed. Consider that God examines all of our hearts and knows us. And so God knows what our intention was. I really intended to call this friend, and I forgot, and it's now midnight. And I just woke up thinking about the fact that I told myself I was gonna call my friend to check in on them, and I can't call now. Guess what? According to this teaching, God knows what your midnight thought is. So hopefully you'll wake up in the morning and you'll make an early morning call. But this line that God knows that you wanted to do as best as possible, but you just weren't able. And then strengthen yourself in the joy of the Creator. Okay, I'm gonna let you turn to your neighbor and share about 2 minutes. Each of you will get a minute. Yes, question, Sylvie.
So this is basically accepting that we've perfected.
Yes, yes, Brene Brown also.
Oh, yes.
Yes, these teachings as well. She wrote a book called The Gift of Imperfection. All right, so take about a minute or so. If you are on Zooms, you can journal to yourself or take some notes or do some inner thinking about how this text landed for you about the inner critic. So you're gonna talk to your neighbor, just talk to your neighbor about your reflection on this text. Did it resonate, not resonate? What are you gonna take from it? What's your takeaway? How are you gonna bring this into your spiritual conditioning for Elul? Okay, couple minutes. 1 minute per person.
So now I'm
Okay, we all ready? Lisa, if you have anything that you would like to share, please feel free to add it in the chat. I don't want to call on you or put you on the spot, but please know you're welcome to join us. All right, any wisdom gleanings from your Charuta, from your study buddy? Anybody want to share? Yeah, Debbie.
So Giovanna and I were speaking and we were talking about how, you know, sometimes we fall and God wants us to pick ourselves back up and not.
Can you speak a little louder?
Okay, sometimes when we fail and we're our worst critic. And we don't do well and we're so busy beating ourselves up and God doesn't want us to beat ourselves up. He wants us to learn from it and pick ourselves up and to try harder. And Nirvana, as we were discussing, Nirvana is like, well, that's what Moses did when he dropped the tablets. And I just thought that was interesting that we came to that together. So
Very nice. Yeah, do-over.
maybe there were 15 and only not 10.
That's true, we won't know, we won't know. Yeah, thank you for that. Any other thoughts? Lauren, was that a hand raise?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. So we focused on something a little different, about the standards in which we set for ourselves. So Spencer, I didn't say anything about myself, but Spencer sets very high standards for himself to be a good leader. But he's also trying to help other people and lead by example. Yeah, we can talk about.
We're supposed to happy about it.
I think it's a compliment.
Could you repeat what was in or summarize it?
Could you say it one more time a little bit louder?
Basically,
About holding
being
on.
a leader and setting high standards can be important versus just basically just so that the world becomes even a better place.
Yeah, so how do we what standards do we hold ourselves to? So this is a great time of year to do a little reflection. What kind of standards am I holding myself to? You know, I'm gonna share this very personally. I don't know if I should, but I will. But oftentimes I come home and my husband will say, so how was your class? And I'll say, it was okay. And he's like, okay. And I said, well, you know, I could have, and he goes, why do you hold yourself to such a high standard? And I'm like, you know, like you should say it was great. I'm like, I don't know, like I should have said this or I should have done, and now I'm trying to get myself to a place where, okay, they showed up. It wasn't an empty classroom. So I guess it was better than my answer of, yeah, it was okay. So that's my work, is to now see, maybe if I put it at a little bit lower of a level, not perfection. I call myself a recovering perfectionist. So maybe that is something that I offer to you, right? Where are you in terms of your own level? And it's not as if we want to let ourselves off the hook and let everything go and say, well, you know what, I can't achieve it anyway, so I'm just going to lower the bar. That's not what this is about. It's about not setting unrealistic expectations. When people come to me and they say, I want to learn how to meditate. So the ideal in the meditation world would be, if you're doing transcendental meditation, it was 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening. Right, so what I say to people is start with 2 minutes. 2 minutes for the whole day, that's it. And I want to build people up for success. So I don't start off by saying, well, you want to get to 40 minutes a day, right? Can you imagine going from 0 to 40 minutes? Like, see ya, bye, Amy. You're not my teacher. But if I say, hey, let's start with 2 minutes. And let 2 minutes turn into 3 minutes. And let 3 minutes turn into 4 minutes. And eventually you're going to build it up. So an invitation for all of you in this last week of Elul to think about the expectations you place on yourself. Are they realistic? Unrealistic? Do they need a little tweaking? Yeah, Susan, go ahead.
So we both agreed that what you were saying and explaining it, just so you could go home and tell your husband that this was a great class. We appreciate that you put it in better perspective.
We loved your analogy.
Yeah, so.
I was gonna say, make it, your goal should be like shop, like Publish, where shop, they only care about repeat customers, and look at how many people are repeat customers
I know.
to your classes, so.
Yes, thank you.
Like, that's
This
a
is you about
success,
me.
you
Yes,
know, you
thank
have a lot of repeats here.
Can I get a frequent customer program?
No, okay, maybe, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm learning to receive. So thank you. Thank you. I will give a good report when I get home. So thank you so much.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but the way you reframed it was very helpful because I was very put off, to be honest.
Yeah.
When I first read it, but I thought you really did a nice job of reframing it and using the analogy of the archaeological dig where you sift through and look for what's valuable and
Yes.
take that. I thought that was very helpful.
I'm so glad because there are a lot of very challenging texts in Judaism. And so there are some whose perspective, and they are certainly entitled to their perspective, is get rid of it. And then there are others who say, nope, I'm gonna keep it wholeheartedly. I just don't understand it because of my limited understanding. And then there's somewhere in between of, you know what? I don't totally want to throw it out. I don't totally want to keep it. So I'm more of like in the middle, right? I want to learn from the tradition. I want to see what is valuable, but it needs to be, I think, like reinterpreted and updated for our time and age and era. Okay, can we keep going or do we have another? Yes. Can you speak a little louder, please?
I agree with what you said about sifting, but there's something that when you look at like an old book on a bookshelf, sometimes it's just very comforting to see something that's old and still there, and that's also how I felt when I heard it. I didn't really pay attention to the words so much, it was like the whole thing as a unit was very like, comforting.
Yeah, there's something that is very comforting about, I mean, I'm a huge antique book lover, not that I really own much, but I just like the idea of an old book, right? Like many years ago, I was at Camp Vermont, the Poconos, and we were learning about a geniza, where you bury books that have God's name in it. And it was an old synagogue in Carbondale, Pennsylvania, and they wanted us to just take all the books and put them in the ground. And my, I don't know, 15-ish-year-old self was like, can I just keep one? So I have a book it was like published in 1870, I think, and I couldn't even read it at the time. Now I realize it was the book of Samuel, but it's sitting in my shelf and I couldn't, there was something, it was like somebody else had turned the pages, somebody else. This is like my rich tradition. And so when these texts are offered to you, it's from that place of how do we find what's in here that's rich and beautiful, and then let the other part just fade a little bit. All right. So let me see where we are. Oh, there's so much to do and not enough time. Okay, I think I'm going to not do teaching 4. I'm gonna let you take that home. And I am going to share another story. And after the story, I want you to just to be thinking in the back of your mind. I have started to generate a list of what we have spoken about in terms of spiritual conditioning, the different tools and techniques and methodologies. And so I want to share my list with you. I'm going to send you this in an email so that you can have a running list of your own spiritual conditioning techniques.
Thank you.
So that's for you to keep in mind. Mark, if you don't understand what I'm talking about, you'll see when I put it up on the screen, we've been talking about different techniques of how to condition ourselves. So you will get all the information. And I'm happy to stay after for a few minutes if anybody has further questions. But first, a story. Another Hasidic story. So a Hasid, right? A Hasid is a Hasid. A Hasid's a Hasid, like a disciple is the translation, but it sounds better in the Hebrew or the Yiddish, right? It's like a student of a Rabbi. A Rebbe is a Hasid. So a Hasid comes to his Rebbe and he comes to tell him the good news. He's gotten a very, very big job and he wants a bracha. He wants a blessing. Happens to be a tailor, and the local lord is hosting a very big family wedding. And he hires this tailor to outfit the entire wedding party. It's a very big commission. The chassid is very excited, and he's pretty confident. So he goes, he takes everybody's measurements. Each person, the whole wedding party, there is a lot to be done. La briut, God bless you. And has all the measurements. He goes home for days and he sews and he sews and he sews and he sews. And after weeks of this commission, he goes back, says, Lord, I would like to present you with all of the garments. And the Lord picks up the first jacket, inspects it and turns it over. And he says, you dirty yid, this is not up to par. Why did you waste my time? This is not fit for such a royal wedding. The Lord takes all of the suits and dresses and throws them in a pile. And he says, you have until next week. And remember, if you don't have this perfected, I will have your scrawny neck. Don't you make a fool of me. As you can imagine, the chassid is beside himself. Goes back to his Rebbe. Rebbe, what am I supposed to do? My life is at stake. I spent weeks and weeks and weeks, and now I only have 1 week before the wedding. There is no way I am going to be able to do this. What am I supposed to do? There's no other solution. The Rebbe picks up one of the garments and he inspects it and he says, here's what I want you to do. I want you to take everything home. And I want you to take out every stitch. Every single stitch on every single garment. And you need to resew it all. But how is that possible? The Rebbe said, that's what you got to do. You're coming for my advice. I'm telling you what to do. He runs home. He takes off every button and every clasp and every zipper. And he is freaking out, right? Like, what is he supposed? Every stitch he takes out. And he cries and he cries and he cries. And as he is taking out, he's resewing and resewing and he's calling out to God for help. Ribono shel olam, master of the universe, I need your help. How am I supposed to do this? He barely sleeps. He barely eats, barely speaks to his family. He is up pretty much night and day, catching a few catnips in between. He gets it done. Goes back to the Lord with all of these same garments exactly the way they were originally, except they have now all been resewn. Presents it to the Lord. The Lord looks at it, picks up a jacket, turns it over, looks at the stitchery, and he says, now this is good work. Now you did something worth your value. You will be hired to be my royal tailor. And the chassid is totally baffled. What the heck is going on? These are the exact same garments that I gave him a week ago. What could have possibly changed? Goes back and he tells the Rabbi the good news and he says, I'm so exhausted and I don't understand what is going on. I did exactly the same thing. I did it in the exact same way. The Rabbi says, no, you didn't. The first set of clothing smelled of your smugness. The second set of clothing smells of your humility. The second time, it smells of prayer and of heartbreak. Which brings us right back to where we started. And so my prayer for each one of you is that regardless of what we do in our life and how often we think we're doing the same thing over and over and over again, how can you come from a place of humility and of heartbreak and of openness and of prayer? And that is what we bring to our relationships. And that is what we bring to our spiritual conditioning for high holidays. That is the work that we are here to do. Okay. Oh, I'm glad you like that class. Oh, thank you. So here we go, my friends. Here is what I have generated. This list of spiritual conditioning. This is serving as my summary of what we spoke about during these 3 weeks.
You too, man.
Can I zoom in? Yes. Does that work?
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, great. So please let me know what I am missing. I'm going to send you this so you don't have to. Actually, hang on. Maybe I could do this. Is that better? Okay. Oh, yeah. So here is what I remembered from our time together, and let me know what I'm missing. We spoke about looking in the mirror and telling ourselves that we love ourselves. Remember that adage? And if you were asked to name all of the things you love, how long would it take for you to name yourself? Recognizing that I love myself. That could be one part of spiritual conditioning. This is a list. Think of it as like a toolkit. You're not going to use everything, and not everything is going to resonate for everybody. So I'm offering this as a collection, and you decide what you want to do. Journal. To have a gratitude journal or some other kind of journal. Pray. Meditate. A mantra. Right? A mantra is a phrase that we repeat over and over and over again. So maybe for Elul, it is Ani l'dodi v'dodi li. I am my beloved and my beloved is mine. Or it is Shema. Listen. Or it is Hakol Tov. It's all good. Or it is relax. Or be patient. Or Achat Sha'alti, one thing I ask. You come up with a mantra, and that becomes almost like the background in your mind. When you're feeling distracted, or you're feeling disappointed, or discouraged, that's your mantra. You've got this. You can do it. Write a ledger for you and for God. Remember that story we read last time about a chassid? Another disciple, innkeeper, wrote a ledger, all the things that he didn't do, that he said he was promised to keep, he didn't do it. And then he made a side for God of all the things that God was supposed to do and God didn't keep. Then the innkeeper says, all right, here's my side, here's your side. How about if we call it even? So, take some time to create a ledger. Recite Slicho prayers. Psalm 27 is also recited throughout the month of Elul and through the high holiday season. Blow or listen to the shofar. Have courageous conversations. Offer forgiveness, seek forgiveness, cry. Did I miss anything?
No. It's quite a list.
So this is
Look
what we,
forward to the food.
look forward to the food. Yes. Here is this list. I will send this to you.
Okay.
And they will be your reminders of what to do and how to reorient ourselves during, it's a full-time job. It really is a full-time job.
There's one other thing.
Yes, what else did I forget?
Take care of the body.
Take care of the body. Okay, let me add that.
In preparation for all of this.
Yeah.
There's also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yes. Take care of the body.
Do 10 sits of stance and you get out when they open the ark.
Do what?
10 sits of stance, so when they open the ark, you can get up.
Oh. Take care of the body. So you mean like practice squats for synagogue prep? Yeah?
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, probably.
Okay,
No,
great.
chair pose in yoga, that's fine.
Well, Dory was saying you get up, you get down, you get up, you get down.
Stand up, you sit down, try to do it without getting.
Yeah, in chair pose.
Good idea.
That's
Only on the chair, you know.
Okay, so I want to leave you with a final poem. This is entitled by Rabbi David G. Winship. Preparing myself for the new year is such a slog. Through so much pain, so much grief, so much bad news, the question, where do we go from here? Like an apple, the year was filled with bites of sweetness, yet its core was indigestible. The stem too tough to swallow. Yet the core of my apple of this past year contains seeds, which when not consumed, but rather freed and planted, give rise to apple trees, give rise to the possibility of generations more of blessing. May the seeds of this year be planted and blossom into justice, into love, into joy, into peace. Thank you all so much for learning with me, and I hope that your Elul has been meaningful. Yes,